Everyone, thank you so much for coming for this month. I am very excited because, you know, I feel like only in a room like this can we have real candid conversation about the period and making money and how so many people have made money off of our periods, and now 2 women are going after it. I love it. So, welcome to this month's Women Wednesdays. Our guests today are the co-founders of the new, much buzzed about LOLA. And we have Alex Friedman, who is a friend and a fellow Wharton classmate. So I'm very excited about that. And Jordana Kier. And so I'm very excited to really just understand the journey. Because I don't, you know, we haven't talked in a while. And then I was just like, wait. I got like kind of one of your marketing emails. And I was just like, this sounds amazing. And somebody else had sent it to me being like, have you heard about this company? I was like, wait, I know her. So I'm so excited you guys accepted to come and chat with us. Let's just start at the beginning. How do you two know each other?
We were kind of set up.
Oh, friend date! I love friend dates.
We were set up on a friend date by mutual friends, and I think originally it wasn't, you know, I had been working on kind of the skeleton of this idea while at Columbia Business School, but, you know, hadn't gotten that far. Was set up with Alex on a date, and we kind of just like fell in love. And that's how we met.
And when was this?
This was last June. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And you guys were both doing, you were not working in CPG, you were not working in, what were you doing before? Like, what is the background both from, let's start at undergrad. Or what were you? Yeah. What were your majors in undergrad?
We actually both went to Dartmouth, but we didn't know each other there. I graduated after Alex, and actually went to work in nonprofit after college. I'm a pianist, and so I went to work at the opera.
Music for autism, we're going to have you talk.
Love the arts. You know, it always will be a big part of my life. But while I was there, got involved in union negotiations and found myself more running models and kind of thinking about the strategy, and realized that there was this whole other part of my brain that I wanted to exercise. So found myself at business school, where I was kind of swept up in the tech hype. And then on vacation, was just kind of lamenting a little bit around recruiting and how I didn't really want to go work for these big companies. And my boyfriend at the time said, start your own company. And I was like, okay. Thanks. So helpful. Great. And he's like, no, what makes you frustrated? And I immediately thought about tampons. Just like buying them every single month. I found myself kind of shocked that, you know, while I was trying to kind of keep my life like relatively together, I always seemed to find myself in the aisle every single month, like, you know, with like my pants like stained. It was just like a mess. And so we've all been there.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. Everybody's been there.
Exactly.
Except for maybe Will, but that's
right. So the concept actually started more as a delivery idea. But then around the time Alex and I met, we started thinking about the actual ingredients that were going into the products, and really came to the realization that we had never thought about what was actually in the product, and how could we sell a product that we didn't really fully understand ourselves, that just didn't feel right from a business perspective, but also as consumers. So yeah.
And this was when? When was that? When you had on vacation? When was the he sold it?
2014.
And you said boyfriend at the time, he was no more.
No, he's my husband now.
Oh, okay.
Smart guy.
I was like, very smart guy. Lock it down. Lock it down.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, it's like, marry me.
I love that. And so, Alex, your path to the friend.
So I graduated from Dartmouth in 2004. I worked at a private equity consulting firm for 3 years in Boston, then at a fund of venture funds for 2 years in Connecticut, then was at Wharton with you for 2 years. Ended up at BCG as a consultant, then went to an ad tech startup called Flurry, and while I was there, met Jordana. And as soon as we started talking about tampons, I checked out of my day job. We have not looked back.
Amazing, amazing. And so, at what point were you like, found with me? Like, when did that happen? And what made you know that she was the right one that you wanted to do it with?
Well, so it was kind of this great... It was kind of this great situation where Alex had a job, but was super excited about working on this with me. And so we kind of took the summer as this trial period. Like, was this the right fit? So we did. We dated for a while, which was awesome. And so around Labor Day, I would say, we kind of realized that we wanted to be together. And so at that point, had done a ton of customer discovery, talked to tons of women, had started to do in-person focus groups. And once we realized that, there was a lot of validation behind this idea, that women didn't have a lot of knowledge behind.
And to that point, what is in the Tampax and Kotex? What's in it?
Yeah, so they're primarily based of rayon and polyester, which are synthetic fibers. So not anything natural. There's cotton in it. The crazy thing to us was that if you look at the back of the Tampax box, which I had almost never done before, thinking, why am I looking at this orange in the supermarket with more care than I am my feminine care? If you look at the back of the Tampax box, it'll say this product may contain, and it says rayon, cotton, polyester, polyethylene, polypropylene. It just kind of lists all these things, and you're like, okay, cool, but does it or does it not? It may contain what's going on. And so I think for us, there was this big awakening of we expect a lot from every other brand we consume, every other product that we put in our bodies, we understand what's in it. This should be no different. So that's where we then started the process of finding a manufacturer that worked just with 100% cotton products, and that's when kind of the adventure started.
And so are there studies that are showing that the synthetic, what kind of harm are we doing? What are the possible repercussions of what we've been using for so long?
I think the worrisome part is that there hasn't been a lot of data.
Because tampons are technically a medical device?
Tampons are technically a medical device.
You have to get FDA approval.
You have to get FDA approval, but also companies are not required to disclose all the ingredients on the box. And so there's not a lot of data that says it's good. There's not a lot of data that says it's bad. We've done a ton of third-party testing on our product as well as some other products in the market just to have a better sense of what's actually in these products. But the other thing to know is that on a year-to-year basis, the cotton supply or prices of cotton can fluctuate, and so it really kind of depends on that year's supply and price what the breakdown eventually will look like in the actual tampon.
Oh, interesting, because, the synthetic stuff stays the same. Because it's
right, it's synthetic control.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, but it's worth, the real play here is transparency. There have been no clinical studies done, and it's a self-policing industry, and it's, a very strange place to be a self-policing industry because it's a product that goes inside us, and so we felt like transparency was really the thing that got us thinking and wondering, and we would love to see an industry where the big brands are actually saying what's in the products, and we don't have any data that shows that what's in them is bad, and frankly we had been using those products for over a decade more, but at this point we're just more comfortable using something natural when we've switched to natural products in a lot of other areas of our lives too.
So interesting. And so, you are obviously not former manufacturers, CPG people. How does one start a CPG company with not being a CPG background?
That's a lot of good question. A lot of effort. A lot of effort, a lot of learning curves that we kind of have to just run up.
We spent a lot of time looking at other brands that have done similar things. Like Harry's is a great example of a couple of really smart former consultants who learned how to source a product, learned how to build a brand, and we've seen a lot of other companies do similar things recently, and we took a lot of inspiration from just how scrappy those founders had been, and have found the New York startup community to be so supportive throughout.
I think that's from the perspective of how have you found being female founders in the New York founding scene? What are you feeling about that, and where have you found that things that are great and things that are some areas of challenges?
So I think the best part is that everybody's really welcoming, and you know, every single founder has been in our shoes, and like there are days we have no idea what we're doing, and you know, we pick up the phone and call people we've been introduced to, and they're really kind and lend their time, and so that has been the best part. I think one of the, I guess, to be totally candid, one of the hard things as a female founder is not having a lot of female mentors. So we meet a lot of other female founders, but we don't have a lot of networks to, you know, meet other women who started companies. Now we see that there's a network. But, you know, we have some mentors, but they're mostly men.
Yeah. And I mean, you're going to pitch about our periods, and you're pitching institutional investors where we know that only 4% are women.
Yeah.
How did that? Because you guys, to their great success, raised 1.1 million. You closed your 1.2 million seed round, which is awesome. And I would venture to say pretty much most of your backers are men.
That's true.
What was that process like when you're talking about, like, I am so fascinated. Tell us what
we got a
like.
lot of great questions.
Yeah. Because I could just imagine, like, I never wanted to ask, but now I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to give you some money, so can I ask you how this works?
Totally. Well, and a lot of them sort of had been like, look, I have a list of, one of them was like, I have a list of questions for my wife. No, I mean, look, we also were approaching this as, we had more domain expertise, which kind of gave us an advantage.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it was great because we were coming to the table and educating them on an industry that they didn't really understand from a consumer standpoint.
So what were some of the craziest questions? Give us some scenarios, the spectrum of what a meeting, pitching.
They were like, so what are the sizes correspond to? Like, are they about the size of the vagina? And we were like, well, no. That was a pretty good one.
We got one today that was pretty funny. It was like, this is embarrassing, but what is, like, Andrew was like, can I ask you about the sizes? And then
they have a lot of questions.
I didn't even know what the next question
was. Because, you know, men think about size matters, and they think about size and all kinds of different, are they expandable? Is that what is happening to women?
There were probably one box in a day.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
They're like, she might be dead if that happened.
I mean, every meeting basically ended though, where we would kind of be like, okay, here, and like,
open it up,
and like soak it in like his water, like watching others.
What was the reaction?
No, I mean, I think it's like fast educational. It's super fast. It's just like this part of the bathroom that like they never like. So that was kind of it was awesome.
And was there anybody that just didn't get it, or like? Because I think that's exactly what you said. I've heard every month where they're like, the men will be like, yeah, sorry, wives, girlfriends, secretaries.
Yeah.
And if it's something that like interests them, they might proceed to a second meeting. And if it's not, they're kind of like, oh, this, you know, the women I know, which might be 2 people, don't think that this is relevant to the female community. You know, so this is something that, you know, the whole half the population goes through. So it can't be denied. It can't be something that can be necessarily brushed aside, which I think is interesting. So when did you officially launch? Where are you guys right now, and what is the vision over, what's the plan?
Yeah, so we launched on July 8th, so we've been in business for about 9 weeks. Looking ahead, right now we're a tampon business, but we would like to be a much bigger feminine care brand, so we'll have pads and liners and really any product that women need for all feminine needs from the moment she's 12 until she's, in her 50s, 60s, forever. Where are we today? We have thousands of customers at this point. We're doing really well.
If you haven't tried it, first of all, there's tampons all around. So we all get tampons. It's like Oprah. You get a card. You get a tampon. I'm really excited about this. And as somebody, I've had 3 deliveries now. One of the ingenious aspects of it is that when you log in, it's a very simple site. There's a sliding scale. Because when you buy the box with the mix and you never have the right mix because it's never your right flow? You slide it, and you, after 2, you know what your mix.
We want you to be on our team.
Yeah.
This happens to me a lot. When I really like a product, I often get a job offer out of it. It's like, if I knew that, maybe I should have done that a while ago. But that is one of the most ingenious parts of the whole thing. is that like the first one I like just set it at something where I thought it was.
Yeah.
Used the product and then I was like, actually I need more super, no light, just regular.
Yeah.
So that's my mix. It's like super and regular. You know?
Yeah.
And it just set it and forget it and it shows up in a very discreet box. And I love that. I haven't been to CVS or Dwayne Reed 4 tampons in 3 months. So yeah, no, I really, really think it's a really cool concept. I can ask questions forever. I'm going to stop because people also like to ask questions. So anybody in the room?
So I work for Procter & Gamble. I haven't worked with tampons or the feminine care. I only know too much about diapers. But how the performance-wise, is there because as I said, I don't know anything. I'm on leave of absence, so you guys don't need to feel like you're or say anything.
And she's in the Stockholm office.
Yeah. Exactly. So even
but we're trying to get her to come to America because
on top of that. So
do you want to work with us?
There you go. Look at that. This is what the network is about. This is why you go to networking events. You get hired.
But yeah, so performance-wise, like how do your products compare to the branded products? You don't even have to take specific brands. So, and how does cotton versus the synthetic, like performance-wise, how does it work?
So we used the product for over a year before we launched it to the public because we really wanted to make sure that even just for the two of us, it worked just as well. It was great, not only for like the peace of mind piece of knowing what was in the product, but also like was it going to work? To us, that was a non-starter. Like it had to be great. It had to be kind of super effective. A woman should not. So the woman should never know the difference.
So the cell is more or less it's on par on performance, and then it's better with the subscription service and with knowing what the product actually contains and everything else.
I mean, the way to objectively assess the tampon's performance is just how much fluid it absorbs, and so we hired a third-party lab to do testing of our product versus the other major brands, and they determined it was on par, so it technically absorbs the same amount of fluid and retains it as well, so the effectiveness is just as good. Cotton, however, is different from synthetic fibers in that it's a less absorbent fiber itself, so there's more cotton to, like the cotton to synthetic ratio in our tampon to another is greater than 1.
And then a second question, just because being European, things are different. So for example, applicators, you guys do with or without.
Oh my god, did you guys see this thing that's like a cup that you, like,
You have to be on our team.
what is the thing called? Like, it's like got a
menstrual cup.
No, we were just talking about You're talking about non-applicators.
Okay, I was about to say,
Some people love them, and we would love to have a LOLA cup.
It's like you stick a cup. Can you, doesn't it spill? I spill when I just hold it out.
We tested everything.
That one, I didn't know that existed until, honestly, when I started looking at your stuff, and it blew my mind. I was like, who is using this?
We'd love to be able to offer, I mean, the goal is to offer everything. So non-applicator tampons too. We'd also love to provide where it's just, the actual tampon.
So like OB.
And it's already developed. It's just our tampon, not.
It's just like our tampon,
and we'll be selling it.
Okay. No, I was thinking more about the sustainability. Obviously, I assume that the applicator is
plastic.
It's plastic,
right.
Which then, in terms of footprint it brings,
totally.
There is definitely that aspect. But then you have to change the consumer's minds about what's
right. And so to that point, when we were thinking about our company at V1, it was a lot about what is the product that most women use, and it was plastic applicators. For U.S. women, and so that's kind of where we started. But that's not where we'll hopefully end.
What is the European? Is it the no applicant?
It's the OB mostly.
I know. That is the other thing. I'm just like, wait, I don't know if I can do that. That's so
good. You can. When we're at it, I feel that. I feel like it's so odd
when you have an applicant.
Yeah.
But it depends. It depends.
Oh well, yeah. What do the British women do? We have a process.
It depends. I feel like there's Tampax and then there's not.
Yeah.
I'm British.
Yeah.
In Europe still, but it is a lot more non-applicable. Which, by the way, are much more efficient for small nighttime handbags.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
They are much more discreet. You can take it in your little past or need your big wallet.
But then I see isn't. It's like compressed in that whole thing. But like, it's true. Natalie?
So what most people actually don't realize about tampons is, well, like I said, tampons are made from rayon. And rayon is not a synthetic fiber. It's actually it's made from cellulose, which is wood pulp. And when you're wet down there, I'm going to speak for anything, I'm sorry. When you're wet down there, there's lubrication, so that's okay. But if you're, let's say, like it's soaked up and everything, and you're dry, basically it causes tiny little micro nicks inside your vagina. So it makes you more susceptible to yeast infections. It makes you more susceptible to STDs. That's why you get toxic shock syndrome, because toxic shock syndrome is it's caused, it's basically a staph infection. So some women are much more sensitive to it than others, and that's why I really like tampons. The regular tampons that are out there are just they're just so bad for you. That's why they kind of just say, wear them for a short period of time. If you wear them for too long, you'll get toxic shock syndrome, which is kind of like stepping on a nail, same thing, but on a microscopic level, which is like, that's what we're putting into our bodies, and it's scary. That's why it's so important to have a product like LOLA, because it's organic, and I don't know, cotton is one of the most heavily pesticide-sprayed plants in the world. So it's organic, so it's kind of like you're not sticking pesticides up inside of your ear, It's cotton, so you're not irritating yourself. So it's
You'd think that she works for you guys too.
Yeah, I know.
She doesn't. And I actually met her in the bathroom this afternoon, and I was like, you're interested? Well, you should come and do that. There you go. Now you probably got a new customer. Yeah. Elise?
I'm curious what you view as the future of distribution. Is your goal to have it all be distributed to customers directly, or do you want to be in the DwayneReed.com?
So for now, we're very happy to be in charge of the conversation with our customer, and I can't tell you how valuable the feedback has been in the last 2 months, just receiving that directly from our customers. I mean, even the women who've canceled, we've contacted all of them and talked to them on the phone, and have unbelievable data now, how to improve the business, how to improve the product. So in the near term, like 12 to 18 months, I can't imagine we'll think about really bringing this offline, except creatively, through other subscription boxes. We would consider putting samples, or if there, we're thinking through a B2B approach right now. So we're already in some businesses, like we're in Airbnb headquarters, bathrooms, and other businesses kind of on the coasts.
And that's interesting. And is it like B2B with other kind of emerging next-gen companies that you're with, or across the board, different types of newness?
It's not really so there's some startups. Most of the businesses that we're talking to don't have any sort of like creative janitorial sourcing process right now. So, we're not stepping into a conversation that already exists. We're kind of creating a conversation with them. And so that's a place where women will be able to see it off the shelf. And then going forward, I can imagine us being in kind of specialty, pharmacies, but at the moment we're not thinking kind of Walmart, CVS.
And are you cost competitive even with the distribution cost to the customer?
So right now, are we cost competitive versus the other products? Yeah, so there are kind of 3 price points in this market. There's the private label, like CVS, Walmart brands that are, in the $4 to $6 range for a similarly sized box. Then there's Tampax, Protex, and Playtex, which tend to be in the $6 to $10 range, depending on where you buy them, when you buy them. And then there's the niche cotton brands, which are kind of $8 to $11 or $12 for a similarly sized box. Ours is $10 for 1 box, $18 for 2 boxes, and includes.
Louise?
Just a question on strategy for other products and the timeline that that's going to take for you.
Yeah, so at this point, we decided before we launched the business that we would spend the first 6 months on our tampon business and make sure that we, refined the product and the brand and strategy and the voice and everything about it before growing into other products, just because we really want to nail this one thing. So far, it's going really well. Cardboard applicator tampons and non-applicator tampons are very easy for us to think about in the near term, and we already have our non-applicators developed, so they would be, pretty easy to release. There's, the pad market is larger than the tampon market, and
Still.
yeah,
That's true, and particularly outside the U.S.
Yeah, so there's huge opportunity in pads, and the minors market is also hundreds of millions of dollars. So those are two areas where it really feels like there's a tremendous opportunity, and nobody is talking about natural products in those areas.
Did you see that, like the study that I quoted in the RSVP link? Did you see the overall? It was like looking at the female hygiene market. I don't know if it was because of you guys, but they were talking about disruption has started. So I like, and the market is quite large. It's like $2.5 or $6 billion market that is feminine hygiene.
Yeah.
It's and that's definitely one of those things where like, I don't care if you're a guy or girl or whatever, if you're in the VC world, when somebody says like the market potential is like 2-point-something billion, and there's 3 key players, and we have something that could stand out.
It's recurring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's recurring for the next 20, 30 years. Like, that's a business that, people want to back and get into. So, they're brilliant. Husband, very good husband. Laura?
It's not
I'm
like
curious how you and where you're distributing from. You're not probably shipping it from your basement like I do for my product. So how are you doing it? That's been sort of like a enigma to me, is how to get, because I'm doing dresses for nursing moms, and it's I launched a similar time frame, and I wanted to do it I wanted to do it myself so I could put a personalized touch to make sure it was fine. But I know in this situation you can't do it. It's too frequent. There's too many people, thousands of customers. There's no way you could do it. So how do you find the right distributor?
We really leveraged initially, so we work with a third-party logistics provider, which there's a lot of them all over the States, worldwide, and it's basically big companies that do fulfillment for tens of hundreds of other companies. The reason why I think eventually we really weighed all of the different options. Like a lot of companies that do it in house, build it out. The quality control and quality assurance that you get by owning that piece is really it's really important. From a scalability perspective, it did not make sense. And then also, I think probably most importantly, from a shipping cost perspective, this 3PL does tons and tons of volume in shipping, and so the rates that they're able to garner from FedEx, UPS, etc., are so much lower than what we would ever be able to get. And so at a $10 price point, it's just really tough. And that was really kind of almost the biggest decision.
Yeah.
Do you work with, or do you plan to work with companies like ActiFlow, where they introduce the whole concept of having a period to the kids? Because it would be nice to introduce that you need to take care of what you actually are using for product as well, already at that stage. So do you kind of plan to?
Yeah,
So at this point, to be totally honest, we're still figuring out who our customer is, and so right now we have customers in all 50 states and all ages, and we're still trying to figure out who are the key pockets that love LOLA and want to use other LOLA products. If it turns out that if our audience skews young, we'll definitely focus on that type of package next, and we'll think through even smaller. Like we have light tampons now. There are some very young women or mothers of early teens who have requested even slimmer, smaller tampons, and we would certainly either think about partnering with a brand on other products or developing that for younger women. We're also noticing that there's a pocket of kind of pre-pregnancy women and right after having first children women in our audience right now, and so we're thinking through maybe maternity is actually a better next step for us, and so we'll really kind of over the coming months be thinking through which are the ages that are interacting with our brand the best.
How big is your team right now?
We're a team of 5.
6.
Oh, 6. I know, 6 as of yesterday.
That's great. And where are you guys work? Like, where do you work out? Because what is the supply chain? What's the flow of? You're not making it. Are you making them in America? Like, how does it work?
I wish I could say that we were hand making.
No, we're not.
We packed these boxes. We did pack these boxes.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're working out of one of our investors' offices, Box Group, on 17th and Broadway.
Oh, cool.
So we're very close.
Right? Yeah, of course.
They've been super generous. They actually incubate several startups at a time. So they have a team of 5, and then there are a few other startups in the space, which is awesome. And the way our team is, predominantly marketing focused at this point, but the way that our supply chain works is we're manufacturing in Europe, and then we ship the products over here. We transport it to our fulfillment center, which is in Connecticut, and then distribute from there.
I feel like a lot of people are. Is it that same Connecticut one? Like I feel like some of the major startups or whatever. I've heard Connecticut is the fulfillment center.
All of the fulfillment centers that we talked to were recommendations of other mostly New York-based startups.
Interesting. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Naomi?
Excuse me. Could you sort of talk about the division of labor between the two of you and sort of as founders, like how you decided who would do what and sort of strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah. So we had, basically
just rock, paper, scissors.
No, at the outset, so Jordana had been working a lot on kind of nailing down our supply chain and finding the right manufacturer at first. And so it just made sense. We had seen a lot of other startups divide, inward-facing and outward-facing co-founders, and so that's what we did. So Jordana is working a lot on supply chain, ops, finance, basically, making sure the business runs, and I'm more outward-focused on growth, like marketing, PR, branding, and customer experience.
You guys did great PR marketing. I love to hear
We
stealth
have,
approach.
and actually Jordana's husband runs a PR firm.
I was like, it was really good. You
nice.
And you hit all the major, check all the key players. Announced your arrival.
It was good. Briefly from the PR strategy, the way that we approached it was that it would be basically an embargo, so that and we pitched a ton of reporters and did a ton of desk sides, talking to even, writers who then said, I don't know if this is really going to be something that we want to write about. So it was a lot of effort, a lot of time. And then basically reporters had to agree to a press embargo, so that everything was released at 9 a.m. the day that we officially turned live. So that's where you kind of get
all of a sudden everywhere. Hey, you get it. That was a really, really smart strategy. Louise?
Yeah, 2 questions. Where did the name come from? And secondly, a friend of mine just started a not-for-profit that is based here, that distributes and educates Indian women about family care. Have you thought about potentially partnering with companies or organizations like that will give you a very strong input into maybe one international location just to get bulk distribution, and it could be very cost efficient to do that?
Which question do you want?
the name.
Yeah. You got it.
No, the name, and so we were looking for a name that didn't remind us of our periods at all, first and foremost. But I think also we wanted a name that was an actual feminine name, not too girly, had a little sass, was kind of simple enough that it could be memorable. And to us, I think, this woman, Lola, she is cool, she's confident, she is informed, she's witty, she has her shit together like 90% of the time. So that's sort of how it was kind of it was a long journey into finding the right name.
What names didn't work?
I don't know,
Embarrassing.
Anything gotta get X?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
Trampax.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an option.
Was that an option?
And then on the second question, so we have had actually a lot of conversations with nonprofits who are distributing products globally. We've done a lot of research recently and actually think that we may eventually partner with somebody local to start, because there's a very big homeless population in New York City, and a lot of people here don't have the products they need. At this point, the interesting thing is that most women in that situation use pads. So even like when we were talking to organizations in India, most women in India don't actually use tampons. And so at this point, we have instead, kind of slow rolled into partnerships with organizations that empower young women. So we, have had some volunteer days with the Young Women's Leadership Network. We have been working with I Am That Girl, which is an organization that helps women on college campuses really come into their own and understand, what are the decisions I'm making in my life, and how, what are the decisions I can make to have a better life. And going forward, we're looking for nonprofit partners, and we're still not sure about, what specific structure we'll have in place.
So from thinking of that perspective of like growth, I mean, you've raised $1 billion, but this is a capital intensive kind of, when are you going to raise again? And how does that, and now that you've kind of proven what is your timing to help you like expand as you think about those other kind of things?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're here tonight to kick off fun. No. We raised 1.2 to prove out the business model, and we're still in the process of doing that. We've had a lot of really great early results. We have customers who are saying great things. We really feel like we understand what products women want and how to get them to them, and what voice to speak to women in, because we are women ourselves. So we feel like the last few months have been the most critical learning that has happened so far. We definitely need more capital to scale the business. And so, we'll be looking to fundraise at some point in the next 6 months.
Remember that, ladies, you in the investing space in the world. We open and take like a few.
Yeah, so we brought 10 boxes. We'll bring more. We actually should just make a code.
Actually,
and email it out to the list so everybody can just have their box delivered.
But then you can customize it.
And then you can,
customize it.
Key, like the sliding scale.
You can get what you want, but if you're really fast, once we're done, you can run that way.
Needs it sooner than others.
You want here behind it.
Needs it now.
And neighbor's house is what it is.
Exactly. If you're on your period right now, priority goes here. Well, this is fantastic. I'm so happy that you guys did this. And, I think that from the perspective of when women start something, it's, a tampon business, but like, already you're thinking about the larger implications of what can we do to empower women and use that as a higher impact. And I think that's one of the beauty of what I've seen when women are founding things. That it's, yes, we're making something that is a business, but there can be a good with that as well. So kudos to you guys, and we will be watching. Hopefully people will try it. And you just got a couple of people that want to work for you, so all in one day. This is what we do. This is what the network is about.
What's the website?
Oh, mylola.com, www.mylola.com. And if you do send out the code, I'll send out the code to everybody that was here tonight to be able to get access. So that's great. Thank you guys. Let's eat some more. We have the cookies.